nonsensical.
That's really interesting. Right, so VAR, shall we?
Okay.
I mean, it's been the biggest single change to refereeing in the history of the game. Mm-hmm. Give us your overview of it. Do you think it's misunderstood? Do you think it's undervalued? Do you think? I mean, what's your view? Because you're as well placed as anybody to give us that interpretation.
I mean, we need to remember why VAR was brought in the first place. It was there to correct the glaring serious errors, and it was there to help improve the number of correct decisions that were made. So in terms of the number of correct decisions that are made, it's achieved that over a period of time. It's factually proven that we have more correct decisions in the game. Now, what people over time have seemed to forget is that VAR and technology will not turn a subjective decision into an objective decision. That's not what technology does. And we have the technology, but at the end of the day, we still have human input to interpret frameworks and guidelines to reach the final decision. But the important thing is it will not turn subjective into objective. And so that's what people need to remember. Now, I think it's also widely accepted that in recent times, maybe it's gone too microscopic at times. Maybe we're spending too long looking for things that don't exist. And that's then obviously led to longer delays in reviews, longer time referees being at the monitor, and that's undermined trust and confidence in the system. So that's something that obviously needs to be considered. And moving forward into the new season, I think in general, both the Premier League, who've always maintained the ethos of
a lightness of touch,
a higher threshold for intervening in situations. But then from week to week, we get lots of opinions that change depending on how people see the outcome. One week we want not microscopic and no delays, and then the next week we want 100% correct decisions, and we're searching for that very, very perfect call where we're looking at zoomed in images, and normally from an angle that the referee on field never gets to see, from in real time. So in a way, the game actually, people within the game, and I include the media in this, they need to decide what do they actually want. You need to decide. Stop changing your mind from week to week, because the guidelines at the start of the season that the Premier League and Pro Ref set out are pretty clear. Light touch, high bar for intervention. UEFA have a very clear line with what they expect. You know, if there's clear factual evidence you can see pretty quickly on a screen, then we expect the decision to be changed. But if we have to spend time looking for things and looking in detail, then that's not what VAR is for.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Because there are different interpretations. We saw it at the World Cup, the discussion even before the tournament about looking at corner decisions and whether they were correct or not. And so I think that's very difficult from a referee's perspective. Do you think it's made it easier or harder for refereeing VAR?
A mixture. It has to be a mixture. So it's good that we've got more correct decisions, because the majority of the time now, referees aren't driving home after a match knowing they've made a huge error, missed something that's really significantly impacted the outcome of the game. But then on the other side of it, it can be a challenge, because referees are always fighting to try and get the decision correct on the field, always. Contrary to what some people might think. But then the introduction of VAR has introduced that extra layer of post-game scrutiny, and so there's always this thirst for right or wrong again. And that extra layer of scrutiny after the game undoubtedly then makes the referee's job harder, because from a psychological perspective, and that goes back to what I was saying before about how you're feeling inside, that invincibility against vulnerability. You're fighting all the time to find the right decision, make the right decision, and have the confidence to do that without the worry of going, oh, what's going to be the fallout of this after the game.
Again, another conspiracy theory, if you like. There is a suggestion out there that VAR has led to referees on the field going, oh, I won't make a decision there because if VAR will find it if it's a mistake, if something did happen there. Does that ever happen?
No, it doesn't, because if people actually took the time to listen to the occasions when audio is released from games, some of these situations aren't always involving the referee making, a decision, blowing the whistle to say that's a foul, or VAR intervening. Sometimes a positive decision can actually be making a good judgment of not calling a foul. And that happens on so many occasions, which most people choose to ignore because that doesn't suit the narrative half the time. So people forget this very quickly. So there are many occasions where referees are making decisions on the field. It's just people choose not to understand that.
How do you see VAR evolving from here? Because at the start of every season, I mean, you work for UEFA, you work for FIFA. There's always slightly different interpretations of how VAR is used in international competitions compared with what we have here domestically. How do you see it evolving from here? I think it's pretty clear that the Premier League don't want to see any VAR creep. They don't want it to be getting involved in more and more areas of the game. But how do you see it generally going from here?
I think Premier League have always been clear about their stance on having a high threshold for intervening. And UEFA have been very clear in recent weeks about how they see this season developing. They're very keen on trying to achieve a consistent level of use of VAR across all of the competitions in Europe, and they've also been pretty clear on how they expect that to be implemented, and they've shared very clear examples and some good educational tools in recent days where anybody can access it to understand why the VAR might not have intervened or why it has intervened. And so it's really down to people involved in football to upskill themselves as well. They're being provided with the information. So really they should be making the effort to digest that information and then move forward. Hopefully we have a more consistent understanding of how VAR is going to be used.
Does it drive you mad as a referee sometimes when some pundits, some newspaper columnists, some reporters like me clearly don't understand the rules quite right, and that will leap up and will go, how can that be a sending off? He took the ball, which is irrelevant these days because if you're endangering an opponent, it doesn't matter. Does that drive you mad that you guys know the rules implicitly and you're working with them every single day and you're being critiqued by people who don't necessarily know the rules?
Well, it's always a balance because referees always get accused of knowing the laws but not understanding football. So it's referees at the top level are always trying to find that balance between knowing the laws and understanding the game. However, it is immensely frustrating when people inaccurately quote what laws are in operation that particular season, or somebody says, I didn't know this was a rule, but it changed 3 years ago. So, I appreciate the amount of focus on football in the media these days. There's a thirst for information, there's a thirst for controversy, but at least let's try and be a little bit fairer and improve the knowledge and improve the understanding of what you're trying to critique people under.